This is a tentative budget, and it's the first version of a budget which will change over the next couple of weeks. And so it's the amount of money here exceeds the 0.73% tax cap that we're supposed to adhere to. So if we were to cut out $86,000 from the budget, we could achieve the 0.73% tax cap. So the way we'll do this tonight is we'll go through page by page, and people, the board is welcome to make changes or suggest changes and see how that will change the bottom line figure. We have passed a local law that will allow us to exceed the tax cap if we think that we need it.
We haven't passed it yet.
Oh, I'm sorry, that's yeah, we have, I'm sorry. But that's the proposal to pass that local law. I sent out letters to everyone who's responsible for a budget item, and I received a few back. I did not receive everyone. Most people have said, just continue what we had this year. So that's what I did when I made up this budget. I put in the amounts that we had this year, plus I made a couple of adjustments, which reflects what the expenditures were as up until the end of July. That being the halfway point in the year, and we can have, or the beginning of July, that was the halfway point in the year, so generally speaking, that would show us what we're spending in each category. We can start with this. And if you want to start on the summary page, it shows the expenditures on both the general fund and the highway fund. And I didn't put a number in there, but last year the general fund was actually $293,000, and it's $284,000 this year is proposed in this tentative budget. And the highway department last year was $725,800, and this year it shows $715,266. So already we have reduced the amount of money used. The big difference is last year we put in $100,000 more in the highway department from the fund balance. And if you'll remember, when we did this, I said that if we continued to do that, we would be without a fund balance. This is what has happened to some of the towns where, in order to achieve the tax cap and the increased expenditures, they have found that they've reduced their fund balance to a very, very low amount, which is not a good idea. In our case, the fund balance, the fund balance has to contain enough money for the court case, the certiorari case that Crystal Lake has against the town. And we will have to pay back when the court case comes up, which probably will be hopefully in December. It's been, by the way, it's been transferred from Norwich to Cooperstown. So the judges, Brian Burns will be the judge hearing the case. So he will hear the case and make a judgment as to what is fair. The last time I knew, we have an assessor or an appraiser who can do the appraisal that Martin wants to hire. And then, as far as I know, the campground still has not found an appraiser. So that's what we're waiting on to get the court case scheduled. But in that, pardon me?
You might want to double check that.
What?
Whether they got the appraisal.
Okay, this was a week and a half ago, I think. So, at any rate, what usually happens in that situation is they will get an appraiser who will give a high quote, a low quote of what the value of the property is. We'll get an appraiser in who will substantiate the assessment that we have given it, assuming that would be it. So then the judge has to decide who's right or wrong, or come up with a compromise that he suggests. Our problem is going to be if, I'm assuming he's going to lower the rate, we'll have to go back a couple of years and pay them the tax, the excess tax that they have given the town. So it will mean that we'll have to refund some money to them, and we need a fund balance in order to do that. So I'm hesitant to spend too much fund balance on the present budget, the proposed budget. So, as you can see, the amount that we show for our tax rate would be $7.64 a thousand, and last year was $6.72. It's about $1 a thousand that this shows an increase. Part of the reason for that is that we're using less money from the fund balance, or the unexpended balance. So that means that there's more money that has to be gathered by taxes. So, with that bit of background, we can start in on the budget, and I welcome any suggestions from board members as to what you see here. Now, as we go through, you'll see almost every figure is exactly the same as this year. Is there a way that we can cut anything out of this?
You want to go through this first and then go back, or do this as we go along?
What's that? The
Questions or commentary?
No, go over and comment anytime you want.
Okay, not ready yet.
Okay, but I would, yeah, I'd like to go through page by page, so when we get to the page you want to comment. So, the town board is exactly the same as it was this year. The justice is the same as it was this year. He said something to me about he wanted an increase in salary, but I received no request from him, so I put in, as budget officer, I am allowed to make adjustments to the requests that come in. If nobody requests anything, then I use my judgment and put in what I think is the proper amount. So that's what I have done here. So town board and justice are both the same figures they were last year, and the supervisor's category is the same as it was last year. Any comments on those?
Does anyone want to lower the wages for the board members?
Pardon me?
Does anyone want to lower the wages for the board members?
I don't.
I don't. I'll take any suggestions you give me. I don't think it's right, but it's. Anybody have any comment on that? If not, okay. Were you going to make a suggestion?
Well, no one's not in favor of it. There's no use going any further.
Okay. Then justice is the same as it was last year, as I said. And supervisors is the same as it was last year. I also used the July report, expense report that I give to you as a guideline, and wherever it looked as though the money, that we were spending more money or less money, I would use that as an adjustment in here. But so far, we're okay. Okay, assessment. The assessor's salary would go up some because her salary is based on the number of parcels. She's paid by the parcel. So that's what governs that. Other than that, it's the same as it was last year. Town clerk, collector is the same as it was last year. Oh, I'm sorry, you're up $1,000. Contractual expenses up $1,000.
Top 500.
I'm sorry, up 500. And that was due to you're going to be attending a conference.
Hopefully this year.
Right. Attorney is the same. records management is the same. Anything in those categories. The next page. Buildings and grounds, based on the July report, we had a little less demand for personal services, so I lowered that by $1,000. If we need more, we're gonna have to get it from contingency, so we'd have to take more from that, but we'll wait and see. Other than that, everything else is the same.
Now, I did have a chance to talk to Robin about this.
Yes.
Because remember when we did chairs and tables,
Yes.
we said you should have had that in the budget.
Right.
She thinks that she would like some more rugs, and she said, she needs 4 or 5 of them. So, and a rug shampooer and a lot of small things, but, I'm just giving you a heads up, this is gonna come up at
Okay,
some
well, then
point.
we should be prepared for it.
Right, right.
Rugs are expensive, as I priced them before, because we approved getting them. They never finished that out, they were so expensive, they're like $400 or $500 for a nice, the rugs we have out here
Yeah.
now. They were a lot of money.
Right.
Well, maybe we could look into getting them from the service where they change them every so often.
Yeah, that's expensive, and you don't have a rug when you're finished.
Well,
No, they are, but I mean, that's why I kind of gave up, because I wasn't really sure how much money we really wanted to spend.
well, she seems to think that we do need them, that they are in desperately bad shape, so I'm just putting it out there.
You should probably, if you figured $1,000, you should have enough under contractual probably.
Um,
We only spent $10,000 last year, and you're budgeting 13.
Right. Okay, then we can just leave it as it is. That should cover that.
Okay, but I think we need to get on there and get something done.
Yeah.
Probably before the weather gets really
Right.
bad.
And you do realize, everyone realizes that if this money isn't spent for some reason, it does go into the fund balance. So we're not losing the money in any way, shape, or form, but it's contributing to our savings, which can bail us out if it's necessary. Okay, anything on those other than that? If not, go to the unallocated insurance. That's our total insurance bill, and this year it was lower than the budgeted amount, so we're actually, 2014 was less, so that's why I reduced it by $1,000. Municipal association is the same. Contingent account is $4,000. That's to be used in case the demand for any particular category goes over the budgeted amount. We can then transfer money from the contingent account into there to make sure that we have money to pay whatever it is. Control of dogs remains the same. Health officer the same. Registrar of vital statistics. Superintendent of highways. Bill, I leveled that off by $100 more, so I didn't know if you wanted an increase of $1,000 or more or something. Okay,
No.
all right. That's easy. Then contractual expenses, we haven't gone over that in the past, so we should be okay. Town garage, I don't know if this is going to take care of the amount that we need to spend on the extra building. I reduced that by 10,000.
What has to be done with it?
I don't know, I'm trying to remember.
Would like to pour some concrete, petition and offer.
Well, but that's this year, we're going to do that.
Pour the concrete,
Yeah,
yes.
so that doesn't affect this.
Oh,
So it would be whatever is more we want to do with it.
I would like to petition a portion of it off that's concreted and put a furnace in there.
Okay, I didn't put that in here, so we should know that.
Well, you got
We-
$10,000, so that,
Yeah.
Budgeted for that concrete floor for 2 years now, it's still not poured. Is it gonna get poured this year?
Yes, Bob, I want it off my plate.
Yeah, so do I, but like I said, it's been 2 years.
Okay, well, with the 10,000, that should cover what you want to do with that.
What's the furnace cost? 5,000?
You know,
How big a- Well, we need that figure to be able to put it in the budget.
and one of the things I would like to do is have the guys do that petitioning interior work.
So all you need is the materials.
Yes.
Oh, okay.
What's your thought process on this? Why do you want a heated partitioned area in that room, in that building?
It's a structure, one of the things that I wanna do, I wanna put the little front end loader in there and the spare truck and maintain that like 35 degrees.
We talked about this early on when we were talking about the use of the building and partitioned it off and heating a portion of it for equipment, if you remember that.
Basically, the truck was sent out, it's a little bit longer, yeah.
Yeah, but I believe once we got stuff, once we take the front end loader
Yeah,
out of
yeah, we
the
have room.
primary structure, we'll have the room.
Okay, so this looks okay. Excuse me. Okay, next page is page 3, parks. We've not.
Wait a minute.
Yes.
So what kind of furnace you putting in there? Oil, gas, wood, solar? wind power?
Likely oil.
Well, so that's more of an expense that would have to, we would incur if that was
Yeah,
allowed.
but that would
Well, the
be
fuel
approved.
costs would be under contractual.
I understand that, but it's all one package, you know, I don't like this creeping in, you know, first it's concrete, then it's lumber, then it's a stove, then it's oil. It's all part of that cost for that project. Just
Okay.
putting that out there.
All right.
Are
Are you recommending more or less?
Well, since this is tentative, I just want to hear where we're at.
Okay.
You know, I'm
Right.
sure I have more to say, but,
Well, we all will.
yes.
Okay, so we go to insurance and then dues and contingent account. Control of dogs, as I said, is the same. Health officers, the same. Statistics. And then, now we're ready for the next page. Parks, again, the same. And you can see that we may not need that much money. But we'll see. The playground is the same.
What needs to be done in both departments?
Well, it's mowing of land, of the lawn, and in the playground, it gives us an opportunity to replace swings if we need to. It's not a lot of money in here for that. Okay, then historian, she said the same as it was this past year and the year before. Adult recreation is the same. Land use enforcement officer is the same. And planning would be the same. Talked to Dan Morehouse and he said that was adequate. Cemeteries, the same. I'm sorry, the contractual was a little up over what it had been. Again, this is based on what I saw in the July report. State retirement is about the same. We'll have, with one less highway employee under the same category of retirement, we'll have a reduction of the amount to be placed there. So whatever increase they give us, this should cover it. Okay, and then health insurance, we don't know. I still haven't gotten a figure from them as to what they want. So I upped it a little bit, but I can't tell you what it's gonna be. Anybody have comments on that page? Let's go to page 5. Highway. General repairs. I increased that a little bit because I included an increase in salary for the fellows. And this is very tentative. I haven't talked with them about salary, hourly rate for next year. I usually do before the budget, but because of hiring a new person and some of the changes, I'm not sure where we're gonna go on that. So I put a 1% increase for them. And again, I haven't talked to them about it, but I want to see how that shakes out and see if that's going to be adequate for them. Under improvements, I put the same, bridges, same. Incidentally, Otsego County is one of the counties in the state, one of the few, that gives the ownership of bridges to the municipality. Others, they're county-owned and county-maintained, but we are charged with maintaining our own bridges. So far, we've gotten a clear bill of health on those, so we're okay. Okay, Bill, do you want to say anything about those other figures? Capital outlay of 50,000 for machinery, and 85 for contractual.
The biggest thing that we've got confronted with is the repair of the grader at this time. And what you want to pursue at, when, in the off-season.
Now, can you do that this year, within this, before December 31st, or will it have to go into another year?
That would be up to you folks. If you wish to send it out prior to the December, we can. The cost that, when last that I had talked to Vantage, the dealership that sold us the machine, they would knock 20% off the cost of the transmission, and they was going to knock the repair rate down as well.
Okay, but we are going to go out for quotes on that.
Yeah, but they're
They're the-
basically the only game in town,
Right.
because not only do they have to install the transmission, but they have to program and calibrate the machine to that updated transmission.
Right.
No, that's what's the matter with it. We know that's what's the matter with it.
It's bleeding internally, John. There's a seal that's gone. It's supposed to have 192 pounds of oil pressure at one point, and it's barely 100, which allows the clutch packs to slip when there's a demand on them. And, you know, we can fix this transmission, but the parts alone were $11,000, and then they would not be able to offer anything. It may go for a couple thousand hours, but it doesn't correct the problem with the current transmission. And this is a machine that's got under 3,000 hours onto it, and you know, I'm terribly disappointed. It's the latest machine that we have.
Okay,
If we put that transmission on in there, to get the warranty, we're obligated to have to service it.
Well, I've always had them service it anyways, Joe, and the fact is, they cannot say we've neglected that machine. They've got the records that they've done the oil changes every 1,000 hours with their spec'd out oils to that machine. So they know that we haven't neglected it.
And you find military surplus for low hours.
It's possible, but I'm not sure.
I mean, we gotta buy the Champion, has a smaller grader,
Yes, it was a smaller grader.
get done the job.
Yes. I can look into that. It would cost, I don't know, I think you can buy them for $4,000 or $5,000, but what do we do with our grader currently? I mean, we could offer it for sale. How do you do that with it in the condition it's in?
You take a loss move on.
Okay, that's a suggestion, so.
That's it.
That, yeah.
I can pursue that
Okay.
if you folks.
I mean, if we get an old military one that hasn't got all electronic junk on it, we'd be better off ahead, as long as it's low hours.
Okay, Lenny, you have anything to say on,
Well, I think if it were my machinery, I would have it done by a factory authorized dealer. I would buy the warranty, okay? And I would agree with Bill to continue the maintenance to the dealer.
Yeah.
It sounds like it's expensive, but it's very, very, very economical health insurance for a piece of machinery that expensive, okay? As far as the military stuff goes and simplified stuff goes, when you get simple, with simple you get age, not being negative to any individuals in the room.
I can't afford to be.
No, but you understand what I'm saying is, simplicity's nice, but you don't have technology, you don't have economy.
right,
So you're kind of taking a step back in time. The military stuff, parts availability, it's not always there. That's a big, big problem with that stuff. And you're gonna find that out with this military truck you bought. Not everything's gonna be shelf item, because a lot of stuff, because this truck is made by Freightliner, Peterbilt, Kenworth, it's to a military spec.
Yep.
And your dealers aren't gonna carry stuff that's to that military spec. You would have that same problem with a grader, a bulldozer, or anything like that. So I think Bill's on the right path with that. I would stay with the dealer, get the dealer warranty, get your insurance, you know what I mean, and stick with them maintaining it. It does cost money, but it's expensive. How much that piece of equipment cost you to bring in the door?
yeah.
What was it?
$180,000.
$180,000. You think you could get $30,000 or $40,000 right now in a live auction? No. Okay, so, I mean, you can't afford to take that kind of hit.
No.
So, I think that's the right path.
Okay,
What I have pursued in the military machines, they were 1987 machines. And they are scattered. It costs us to, if we find one in the States, you know, we still got to get it shipped.
yeah. Well, it's something to look at any rate.
I can pursue that if you wish.
In the meantime, is the amount we have here adequate, or do we need to increase the repairs?
I believe that we can get things covered with
Okay.
the repairs.
Well, the last comment on grader is, our last two pieces of mobile equipment have been very expensive to maintain. But we do the transmission, well, what's next?
No, it's true with anything. you know.
Let's do the transmission and sell it.
You're
Still not getting money.
You're not gonna get,
That's a very depressed market right now, and a grader is probably the toughest piece of machinery out there to sell.
okay, well, thank you for comments. As we go through, snow removal should be adequate. And other, the retirement, social security, disability, we have no choice with those are pretty self-evident. Health insurance, because we'll be contributing less to the new employee, I hope this will cover it. Looking at what we spent in 2014, and, yeah, we're about halfway there for this year.
It may not be any help to you, but I was just notified by my health insurance. My prescription plan, the premiums are going up 30%. My deductible has been zero, it's gonna be $250, and they're dropping a bunch of my medications that are no longer gonna be covered, so
Yeah.
that'll give you an idea of what you're looking at with health insurance.
With our policies, generally, they haven't been that severe. But I'm looking at the possibility of an increase, and I'm waiting to hear what that increase is going to be. So I didn't put that in here, but I was judging by what we spent previous years.
Well, I'm sure you'll get a better deal than I get,
Yes, yeah.
but that's what they're doing to me
Right.
this year.
And what we do is we use Adirondack benefits planning, and they go out and search the field to see what is the best deal for us and what we can live with as far as health insurance is concerned. So we've been with Excellus at some point, and now we're with CDPHP. So
Well,
if they
that's where I am.
Yeah, if they continue to do this, and again, our kind of premium, or our kind of policy is different than the individual. I don't know who, are you with somebody else, or you just?
I'm Medicaid,
Oh,
Medicare,
Medicaid.
CDPHP and their Part B and Part D drug plan.
Yeah,
They're just hammering the hell right out of me.
yeah,
In fact, I've got to go back and see my lady at Office for Aging and see if she's got any good ideas for me.
Would you have mine?
no, it's,
Dual.
Yeah.
okay, so that's pretty much it. If we go on to the next section, the fire district, that remains the same as it was this year. Lighting district, I'm not sure, I think we're okay with 2,000, so we'll see. We do have a surplus in there, so.
Thank you for the ones.
Oh,
Thank you for that. You pay your share.
okay, then we go into estimated revenues, page 107, general, and those are pretty turned out this year, so again, this is so hard to predict what it's going to be, what the revenues will be. The state aid has not been increased in several years, and we just received notice that we got a payment of $5,401, I think it is. So that's what's been static. Years ago, they gave us considerably more state aid. There was a lot more. And as the years have progressed, they then said, well, use a portion of that to train your building inspectors. So that was a possibility. Then they cut back on that. They cut regular state aid to transfer that into the category, and then they've stopped paying in that category. So it's, the state has pulled back, and then still increased some requirements for us. So mortgage tax is something else that we just don't know about. We estimate what it's going to be, and actually this year, the mortgage tax was under, let's see, what is it? We have received more mortgage tax than we budgeted, and we're still not finished with the year. So, mortgage tax, we budgeted 7,000, and we've, let's see, we have received 8,000, so we're in much better shape for that, but that's unique. Dog licenses, I don't know, they're pretty much on track, are they not?
I think so.
I mean, if you collect another $350 this year, we're on track for the budget.
Right. We've been doing, since the census, we've been bringing in more money.
Yeah. Okay.
Do we make enough to cover our costs and dog licenses?
Oh, probably not. If you add the dog officer, if you add all
Yeah.
the printing and postage and all the fees for the shelter.
Precisely why the state quit doing it.
Well, also it's one less headache for them.
Yeah.
But I think we do well. Talking with other supervisors, we do quite well there in keeping the costs down.
No, I'm sure.
Liz is very efficient, very good, and she spends a lot of time making sure people pay their dog license fees. We had a terrible time in the past with that, getting people to pay. Because unless you really go pound on the door of some of these people, they will not pay the dog license fee. And this is what she does, actually. She calls them and reminds them. Okay, and we've received no you've received no word on an increase in CHIPS money, have you, for next year?
Not at this time, no.
How's the chips figured by mileage, road mileage, or population, or?
I'm not sure how that is figured in, Joe. To tell you the truth, I know in the past 2 years, we've had the severe winter recovery money. That was this year it was $21,000 over what our normal CHIPS money is. Last year it was $18,000. I believe the figure that we had accumulated was somewhere, I believe, $217,000 for the CHIPS. And we did get our CHIPS project done. That profiler was not supposed to be here till the 14th. And I said, that's too late. And we crossed our fingers, and I turned John loose to scafire that out. And our paving's done. We should be sealing in another week.
Good.
And then I can get all that stuff turned in for the chips.
Okay. And were you going to use any of the CHIPS money for the renovation on the military vehicles we're having done?
I want to see where we're going to come out on things.
Yeah.
You know, one of the things I have done in the past is sit down to generate the revenue. Last year, I think I had somewhere in the neighborhood of $30,000 extra. And one of the things, 2.1 miles of road represented with 3,000 tons of stone. And so there's a lot of, generated revenue through the trucking, as well as the prep work. So I want to see how that all comes out, turn it all in, and then you can take the revenue portion, unexpended, put toward cribbing up next year's budget,
Okay.
if you folks wish. There's more paperwork for me, but I
It's
think,
worth it.
I think in the long run, it's beneficial.
Definitely. Okay. Now, anybody have any general comments, specific comments?
How much you took out of reserves to come up with this budget?
Took 50,000 out of general and 76,000 out of highway. And right now, let's see, we have, in general, we have 290, well, almost 300,000 in general, and we took 50 out of that. And then in highway, we don't have as much. That's 229,000. So we could take a bigger hit in general, but again, we've got to be aware of how much tax we have to return to the campground if that case is resolved.
Do we have to pay court costs or just,
I don't know. I'm not sure.
We have to pay interest too.
that's what I want.
Yeah, we'll have to pay some interest.
And the school tax too, right?
Well, school tax, they have to take care of.
They have to
The county
pay their
has to take
portion.
it, and they'll be severely hit. And I don't know if they're, I guess they do have an account for that, yeah.
We do.
Yeah, and it's amazing, and this is pretty much true across the board, and that is, anytime there's a certiorari case which has its effect on the school's taxes and all, they want nothing to do with fighting the court case. They will not contribute to the cost of that at all, or they won't have their attorney appear for them. They just leave it all up to us, to the tenant. And this is true pretty much across the board.
Well, that's because they're not involved in the assessing process.
Yeah, but they have a vested interest. If they were able to contribute to showing, to bolstering our arguments and to help us with the cost, that would be nice. But they don't do that. And I understand what you're saying. They're not responsible for the assessment and such, but still, the cost is there, and they're not interested in helping.
And you're using the current assessed value as part of the income. for this year's budget, right?
Yes, yeah.
So, you know, we'll have to pay them back, we'll have to pay them back with interest, and whatever, we'll lose that amount of money
Yeah.
if it goes against us. So there's even gonna be more taking away.
Right.
And just,
And I don't know the exact
Right.
number.
we'll know that until it's
No.
reported.
Right. Right, so the tax rate would go up.
Yeah, so,
Even if we went under the
Right.
tax
Right.
cap, if we lose the assessment, then
Right.
the rate would go up.
now, and I want to reiterate the fact that the budget is a planning document, and it's not cast in stone. We cannot always live by exact amount figures that we have in here. For instance, just one alone, we never pay anything for unemployment insurance. We don't have unemployment insurance policy. And when we have to pay unemployment, we have to pay that as of the current time. And it's been, over the years, we found that we don't need it. We haven't had that many instances where we've had to pay unemployment. So it's a savings for us not to have to set that aside. Okay, any comments on this?
I have a few questions when you're ready, Paul.
Okay, I'm trying to find out
All right, Sid, when
if
you're
these
ready.
folks have anything.
What about the fines?
The what?
Fines and adjustments. I mean, a good portion of that goes to the state.
Yes, it does.
We just get a small portion back.
Right. And that doesn't cover the cost of the court.
If we incorporate it,
If we incorporate what?
well, there's a process. Bigger towns get a bigger chunk of change than we do.
I'm not aware of that.
I'll look into it.
Okay. I'd be happy to look into it as well, certainly. Okay, the only thing that I could come up with was the repairs to the community hall. We have $10,000 in there. We might cut a little off that and hope we don't need it. Who knows, but that's a possibility. But there are two ways to do this: cut some of the expenditures and increase the income from the fund balance. And the danger there, again, is if you cut your fund balance too low, then you may be out of luck. There are towns who have done that, as I mentioned earlier, and they are now out of fund balance, and they're still, now this year, they're going to have to go much higher because they have no fund balance to help reduce the cost of the budget. So they're out of luck. There are towns, and I think, what did I read, Cherry Valley?
Cherry Valley, yeah.
Which was in trouble. And there are towns that are under stress. The state keeps a very careful track of that. What they do is they take our annual report that we send in February, stating what the condition of the town's budget was for the preceding year. They look at that, and then they look at your budget and determine whether you're in danger of overspending and if you're going to be in trouble. And so there are several towns that are in trouble. The state steps in and tries to help them. When they did an audit of Milford, the auditor from the state said, you need more money. So we need to raise more money. And so the supervisor said, do you mean you're suggesting we raise taxes? Oh, no, we wouldn't do that. So where do you get money? You know, bigger towns, they have recreation programs and all kinds of activities, and they boost up the charges to the citizens, so that helps raise a little bit of money that way. We don't have those facilities. We don't have that kind of an activity here. So, one, we don't have any, really, we have no commercial enterprises where we can ask for them to pay a lot more in taxes. There just isn't. the primary taxable amount in our town is based on homes and open land, and that's it. So we're not like, say, even Hardwick has the shopping center over there in Hardwick Seminary. That's something for them. And certainly Oneonta has tremendous businesses. We do not have any businesses in our town to speak of. So there's very little tax that can be generated there. So it really rests the burden on the homeowner and the property owner. So,
What also makes it difficult for us is we're a high mileage township.
right,
Evanston has almost 10 miles less road than we do. And I believe Burlington is in the same boat.
and there is no way that we can increase it. I mean, the way we could cut back on the highway budget would be to cancel out a lot of the overtime. So when it comes a snowstorm, you send the guys out at 6 in the morning and send them home at 2:30 in the afternoon, and that's it. I don't think the community would be well served to do that. But how else do you cut back on that?
Well, can I make a suggestion?
Sure.
There's something fixed in a lot of people's heads about this hours, okay? You can cut back on overtime if they come in at 4 and then you send them home at 11 or 1, instead of them sitting there till 2 to wait till the end of the quitting day. That's how you cut overtime. There's nothing that says they have to get paid from 6 to 2:30 every day, even though you call them in at 4. That's just killing your overtime. You have no part-time help. You could eliminate some of your overtime by having part-time help on weekends, where you eliminate a man coming in on a weekend at time and a half, which we don't do that. Other towns do that. You also have Delaware County has no highway maintenance from 9 p.m. to 5 a.m. for the past 7 or 8 years. No lawsuits evolved from that, and it cut their overtime right down to nothing. So there's many ways that we can look at that. We talked about this last year. Nothing ever got done. Here we are again another year later, and nothing's still getting done. We guarantee our highway workers, and I know this is going to go back to the men tomorrow, and I'll be the bad guy in town. We guarantee our highway workers 40 hours a week, but that configuration is up to us, the taxpayers and the town board. Knowing the financial conditions the towns are in, you might want to reconstruct that, okay? To say that instead of coming in at 8:30, 9 o'clock in the morning and just hanging out till 2 because the building's full of trucks, there's nothing to do, is the winter comment, correct? I didn't hear you, Bill.
No, and not only us, but
I'm not saying not only us, I'm saying we're the ones in trouble, so we're the ones we gotta look at. So what I'm saying is we can effectively reconfigure the working hours throughout the winter, and you will cut the overtime. You have the opportunity to do it now. That's what should be done. That's how you eliminate overtime. You work for a company, they don't tell you if they want to bring you in Monday to Thursday at 3 a.m., they don't guarantee you you're 7 to 3:30 on Friday. Union contracts may do that, but the State Department of Labor, you don't even have to guarantee that.
The only thing I can see here is that if we want to do that, we have to make them aware that their salary, their gross income is going to go down, which is to let them know.
Well,
That's better than not having a
No,
good
job.
economics doesn't,
But I'm just saying,
you don't live on overtime.
no, but you,
That would be poor, because then they gotta be weather forecasters, and I don't think any of them are capable of that.
no.
And I'm not talking about any individuals, I'm just talking about, this is a clinical situation that we're in where the town has employees. I'm an employer, I had many employees over the years. There's guys that when it came in and they're training, John, right? What's Cobblestone Stone do? You send them home, do they get paid? No. You know what I mean? I mean, and this is the law of the land in the construction industry. Unfortunately, we've always been blessed with enough funds that you could let this happen. Now's the time you gotta take the bull by the horns. You're gonna have to take some measures that's gonna aggravate some people to be kind about it. But, you know, if you don't take some fiscal responsibility in doing that, I truly believe you should cut a highway worker. The town of Evanston had a man quit. The last I knew, as of 2 days ago, they're not gonna replace that man.
What,
You went 2 winters ago without a highway worker. You had a guy driving a pickup truck
Yeah.
because he had personal stuff. You got through the whole winter.
yeah, but that pickup truck was aided in.
You can hire a
some
part-time
way.
guy without a CDL for $12 an hour to drive that pickup truck. Instead of a guy for $18 and change with a $40,000 a year benefit package.
In that case, we didn't pay, we paid.
Did you hear what I just said? You can hire a part-time guy for $12 an hour without a $40,000 a year benefit
Right.
package. Your benefit package is $40,000 per man.
Right.
Okay? So you take the salary of $40,000 plus your benefit pack, you're looking at $80,000 for a highway employee. That's the real numbers, folks. Okay? And everybody seems to turn their back on it because nobody wants to be the bad guy. I'm being clinical. Use the math. Get the emotions out of the picture. Use the math. And that's your job responsibility too. You know what I mean? And it doesn't make you a good guy or bad guy, Bill. You have responsibility to efficiency. Those numbers are on the table right now. You're looking at $80,000 that you can save by eliminating that position. I think that should have been thought of before you hired somebody, but you can eliminate that position and see how it goes.
discussed.
The question.
That was discussed
The
that
question
way.
here is when people suggest eliminating a position, I did not study the situation to say, what will this do? For instance, 65 miles of roads. What is going to go undone by not having?
It didn't go undone 2 years ago. Actually, I think
Wait a
Bill,
minute.
No.
Bill's favor did a terrific job, to be honest with you.
But he was working, that person was working, doing a lot of things.
But what I'm saying is you don't need a guy with a CDL to do that. You can take a $12 an hour part-time guy without a $40,000 a year benefit package. That's the picture you're missing.
And not only that, 2 years ago, he was running a pickup truck around. Last year, he wasn't. So we won't even get into how much time was wasted there just to keep him on, okay? And we have discussed at length not replacing the guy. I've said it here numerous times. I'm for not replacing the guy. That's so, they got two bad guys that can go back there.
It's not being a bad guy, you just gotta be.
No, I understand that. But in the thing that gets said all the time is, well, we got so much road, it's gonna increase the workload on the other guys. But as you said, 2 years ago, that's exactly what happened. We have to make it through there fine, okay? The other thing is I wanna know, before we go any farther into the next stage of this budget, exactly how many hours of overtime we've had for the last 3 winters. I've asked for that for years, I can
We
never get
gave
the
a
answer.
figure to that.
One time I got it was 200 hours.
Yeah.
Okay? The other thing I'd like to see is that broken down. In other words, is every employee getting the exact same hours of overtime every week?
Unless they're absentees.
Well, I've run businesses, been a long time too, I've worked with other people. I've never seen it happen in that particular situation where everybody had the exact same amount of hours.
And if I call an individual and I leave a message, however, we're out on runs for an hour or two, like, before that individual gets on, the hours, he does not get paid the same as the others. He gets paid when he shows up.
I still want to see how many overtime hours we've had for the last few winters. We got to come up with some figure that we can use as an average. 5 years would be better. I'm asking for 3. And I'd like to see it broken down per employee.
The biggest misfortune of the whole budget situation is the highway department is the biggest leak in the bucket. We know that. So of course you're gonna be looked at first, okay?
Yes.
There's no way in this room you can save $80,000 in any other area, okay? So what I'm saying is to experimentally correct the problem, you have to do some drastic things sometimes to get results. So I think your only two options are you reconfigure your overtime situation, where you don't have people come in, they stop plowing snow at 8:30 in the morning, sit there till 2 o'clock, okay? They go home at 9. If you gotta call them back in at 3 to plow snow for buses, you call them back in at 3 to plow snow for buses. An on-call system, that's an option, that should totally eliminate your overtime, or you cut them in. I don't think there's anything else on the table, or anywhere else on the table to do that. I'm very disappointed that you still, after years and years, don't have a business plan. If you had a business plan, this type of stuff will be addressed. you're spending $800,000 in an area, and I'm not attacking you, Bill, it's unfortunate that you have that job right at this moment. But, and I'm not, I'm truly not. What I'm saying is you've got to look at the area that you can save, get rid of the bleeding heart, get rid of the emotion, and put the math on the table. That's the way you do business. And unfortunately, in today's government, you have to do business like that. The county was gonna cut the, the DMV offices, okay? Oh, what happened to DMV? You go in there now, it's like, bang, they wait on you, you don't see the lines you saw before, they're much more productive, because they found out they were on the line and they were being looked at. I don't know if you've noticed the difference, I've noticed a huge difference.
But some other changes too.
The county now too, DMV, stuffs all our envelopes to eliminate the postage. I have 12 vehicles, I get all 12 registrations in one envelope now. Imagine that, that never happened before, because they didn't do it, because the job was never called on the line.
And we went out and got the dealership one, which was going out of the county.
Yeah, so I mean, what I'm saying is, and again, I can't say enough, it's not an attack on the highway department, it's not a personal attack on anybody. It's business, and if you don't put your nose to the grindstone and call it a business and run it like a business, every year you're gonna be sitting here. What's your anticipated carryover this year?
I don't know for this year.
You don't have an anticipation?
No, it depends upon what we spend.
I know, but you're in November, you're in October now.
Right, but as of July, this was for the carryover from last year, as I said, was about 300,000 for general fund and 230 for fire.
And that's as compared to 2014, 15? 14, I'm sorry, 13.
I don't have that figure.
See, I truly believe we over budget also.
Well,
And,
yes,
and, excuse me, and when we talked to Dan, the county treasurer, they recommended carrying over 16%. And I'm not saying you're a bad money manager, Bob, because if we turn back the clock to the floods and stuff, and Lisbon did have the money to put out to get the roads done. We had several contractors working in town at once. They were all paid promptly and stuff through reserves that the town had. What I'm saying is we gotta look at the averages now. I don't think you can afford to carry over those big numbers anymore. I think you gotta look at that 16% as a safety net. The nice thing about that, New Lisbon is totally debt-free.
right.
So you got a super credit slate. So if we ran into $300,000 in flood expenses or something like that, you have the ability to borrow that because you don't have the debt.
Right.
So I think you should look at a minimal carryover into the following year, and you should try to maintain that. That will be part of your business plan. Another question I have is contractual expenses.
Yeah.
What does a contractual expense, your contractual expense, like what does that get spent on? Can you
In
pay
my
yourself
office?
to do things?
No.
No.
right.
I have a salary and that's it.
No, but you have a contractual expense after your
Oh, yeah,
salary.
contractual expense, that doesn't, none of that goes to me.
All right, what's that get used for?
Right. That gets used for computer work, for purchase of all of the checks.
So that's office equipment or stuff for your particular duty?
Right,
Postage, paper,
Okay.
envelopes,
Repairs are like your copy machine, that
if
type?
something has to go.
right. New equipment.
Okay, all right, I didn't know, that's what I'm asking.
Conferences, you go to conferences.
Back to Bill, and I'm not attacking you, Bill. You talked about getting reimbursed for trucking of the stone in.
Yes.
What does it cost you per ton to bring the stone into the town?
Oh,
You don't know what your man costs you per hour, so you really don't know what it costs you per ton to bring the stone in, or your trucks. What I'm saying is, if you actually broke down what it cost, his trucks can only carry 15 tons. You can hire a contractor who can bring in 32 tons in one load the same way.
one of the things,
Okay, and that guy gets less money, has less benefit package, and that would actually create more CHIPS revenue for you.
well,
And then your man could be out working on the roads, and then you could be down to a 3-man crew. That's mad. I'm not being mean.
one of the things,
Mr.
though,
Trump, just a minute, but to be fair to Bill here.
No, I'm not Mr. Trump.
He
I'm a
did-
clinical business
Okay, you've been
person.
talking for 10 minutes, let me say something. He did look at that. He did look at that, and you're right, there is a benefit to doing that, and I asked him to do this, expressly to look at that last year. He did look at it, he had the figures, I can't expect him to pull out the top of his head. But there was one area that would have seemed to be the right way to go, and another area that it was not. So I would suggest you get those figures together. And
Oh, yeah, what I'm saying is it's gonna loosen up a burden on you. It's gonna loosen up a lot of wear and tear on the trucks between running from here to Jordan going back versus working locally and getting your local work done.
One of the things is, we do a lot of our trucking in the off-season. Instead of sitting around at the
There
office.
should be no off-season. That's what you're saying, sitting around. Sitting around means they should be home, not on the payroll.
Well,
Okay,
but anyways, there's two ways of looking at this trucking. If you hire a contractor, they come in, they draw your stone, that money goes out. It's gone.
So it's a payroll.
It's okay. Now, other townships, like Evanston, if they do their trucking of their stone, they use that. It's in the budget, fuel, trucks, salary.
Edison contracts hold us though.
Well, they didn't, yeah, they
did.
They do.
They do. Because they did an analyzation of the cost per ton to bring it in, and they found they can hire an outside truck to bring in almost twice as much for actually less money. And if you want to give me the numbers to look at, I will do that for you
Okay.
for free. I mean,
Yeah.
just so you have a number to work
Right.
with.
Well, again, this is, right now, this budget is a plan. And it can be changed, and I expect it will be changed. So if we have changes like that, we can talk with Bill about and make them, which is a deviation.
Well, we gotta look at the numbers, what they cost first. I think we should get the real
Yeah,
number on the
Yeah,
table.
well, yes, that's what I'm saying. But if there's a change, if there's a chance, this is not a Bible. mean,
I understand that. I'm just putting stuff out there, and again, I'm truly not attacking you or the highway department, okay? What I'm just trying to be is clinical, Bill, and look at numbers. Now that I'm done with you, how about the judge? For the past 34 years that I've been at board meetings, everybody's been complaining about the judge's cost. It goes back from day one. How about shared services with another town?
They have looked at that, and I don't know where it's at.
Because it's not just the judge, it's his clerk, you know, and all the time, you turn around and come in, they want to put a bench in for this, or, you know.
well,
it's-
no,
No, we ain't let them do that.
But what I'm saying is, it's all those things.
No, let me explain that. Any of the improvements that he has done in his office, the state, in their wisdom, gives
I was here for some of that,
$30,000 a year to the judge to spend on the things he needs, because, according to him, the state said they were being shortchanged in the past, so the state, the Office of Court Administration said, oh, okay, we'll make sure you get what you need. So he'll come to me and say, would you like carpeting in here? Would you like, what would you like? And this year, he's enhancing the security system, which means that if somebody comes in and shoots him, we'll know who did it. We can see it.
And buy him a beer.
I'm not gonna comment because we're being videoed.
Right. But these are things that take place. And the state, can you imagine, they'll give the judge $30,000, they give the town $5,400. That's,
I just think it's something that we should look into. I think it's an area,
I do.
I don't know of any judge in any town that's overworked.
They're paid a lot more than in Lisbon.
I didn't say that. I said, I don't know of any judge in any town that's overworked.
Oneonta's pretty heavy.
Yeah, Oneonta gets a lot more money up too.
Yes. And the town of Otsego gets an awful lot of money, and a lot of their burden falls on, because they're processing the parking tickets from the village of Cooperstown now. And I think that you have a clerk that does that, actually.
The
But,
judge is an elected position,
Yes.
though, how would you share an elected
oh, that's,
position?
you can do that.
I have one last thing.
Yes.
Miscellaneous fees. We're looking at 13, $4,100, 14, $6,800, and 15, $500. What happened?
Where are you looking?
For your revenues.
Yeah.
I mean, we had 2013, you had $4,100 came in, that was a real number. 14, you had $6,800 come in. Then 15, you had 500. My first question is, where does it come from? My
What
second
page are
question,
you on, I'm sorry?
And general.
1 of 7, general,
Okay, yeah,
estimated revenues.
right. Okay,
That's just what he budgeted last year, that's not an actual, I mean, for this year.
Well, that's what I'm saying, if you got 4,000 coming in one year, it's almost 7,000 next year, and this year you're gonna say you only got 5,000? So you're saying at 15, that's an actual number, you only got 515? I got
That's
15's actual numbers, but I thought these were the same.
oh,
No, that's what's in the budget for.
The 2015 budget,
Right, not the actual.
I understand that. So what I'm saying is, because you don't know that right now, what I'm saying is these other 2 years, you got these huge amounts, and then you got $500 there. Again, my first question is, what is a miscellaneous fee? What's that revenue? Where does it come from?
I'm not sure if we'd have to ask the bookkeeper,
Yeah,
because
I
she
can't-
places.
Okay, all right. Well, I think that's a question we should find out. That's
All right, yeah.
$5,000, $7,000 differential right there.
okay.
And I apologize, since I've downsized my business, I have more times on my hand to be analytical.
Don't you have, can't we get,
Well, I
somebody
think,
hire him for something?
I think you should hire me as a business manager.
We couldn't afford you.
Well, like I said, I'll do the cost per employee for free, and I'll go down from, I mean, you gotta count startup time, shutdown time, I mean, you know, it's very, very involved, but you get an actual cost of an employee that comes through that door every day, and you're gonna be stunned when you see it. And so are the guys.
Yeah, and the problem is that they don't get it all.
That's everybody's problem in this room.
Yeah,
We're all victims of that.
okay. Do you have any other comments?
I got a few questions.
Yes.
Go ahead, Tom.
When you underestimate your income in these certain areas, it appears to me that these are places where you don't really know what you're going to get. Fees and things like that can change from day to day. And you can look at places like Otsego County themselves, who have overestimated their income in numerous circumstances, and then they find themselves in hot water. And so I don't think it's really a bad thing, although the disparity between the numbers of 6,800 and 500, that's kind of high.
It's,
And you don't know where that money's coming from.
one of
Well,
the.
apparently it came from somewhere in those other 2 years, so you could expect to see it again.
Well, if you know where it's coming from, then you might be able to anticipate whether it's coming or not.
Coming or not, yeah.
You know what I mean? You might have an idea.
Yeah, it's, it is very difficult. For instance, I know of towns that planned on mortgage tax, and they had a big, healthy figure in their budget for this year. They're not gonna be anywhere near it, nowhere near it. And so it's, and I'm in touch with a lot of other people, and, you know, a lot of other towns, and it's been a huge problem. Budgeting it is a huge problem anyway. But in certain, for instance, now, we may be overestimating our expenditures for fuel, you know, for any kind of fuel, because the cost has gone down. So we should be able to reduce that. Now, is that going to stay that way for all of next year? Do we know? No.
And I agree with you. You need safe numbers.
Yeah. And the best part of it is that if it isn't spent, then it goes back into the fund balance, and look at this, we're using 50,000 out of general fund balance to reduce the taxes. So it's a way of getting reduction of taxes and not shortchanging us during the year when we don't know what our costs are gonna be. So it does come back to the taxpayer, really. The money, the extra money that we put in the budget that we've been able to live with, then that goes back to reduce taxes. So that's the way you play it. And that way you don't get caught in the middle of the year where some towns go out and borrow. Well, they had the flood. They had to go out and borrow and pay yearly for that money. And that added to their burden. So, you know, and if we were buying big, huge pieces of equipment, they would have to be bonded over a period of time. What we've done in the past, when we bought a new truck, for instance, we'll pay 50% cash and 50% bonded over a 5-year period, which exceeds the lifetime of the truck, certainly. I mean, yeah, the truck lasts a lot longer than 5 years. So, The money, if we do charge extra as we go along, it really isn't that because we've lowered it from preceding year's savings. So, go ahead, any more comments? Yes, Ed.
So just on the general fund thing and what percentages, I think Dan would say the 16 or actually 17% is not necessarily applicable to a town, because we're in different situations.
Wow.
They have a lot more flexibility, a lot more pockets they can dig into if they need money in a hurry than we do. So ours are probably should be higher than that. What the right number is, I don't know, whether it's 20%, 25%, maybe it's 30%.
Yeah, not
I don't know.
30%.
Well, it may be getting close to that, but that's something we should look at through the controller's office and through benchmarking with other towns. And then this particular year, because we have anticipated possible expenses that can only be covered out of the general fund, it's not a bad idea to keep it a little bit higher this time. So that when we get through the end of next year, the general fund is where it ought to be.
Right, right.
A couple of specific questions, well, more or less specific. Buildings general, are these numbers, the 10, 13, 10, 1, 1,500, are they just based on what we spent historically, or are there specific
Well, there's,
things in there?
what I base this on is what the July report was, for instance, and previous years, what we've spent.
Okay,
And our
but there's no particular things like the heater and heaters?
No, no. When we had roof replacement, that was something that had to be accomplished. But again, this is why I question the $10,000 in here for repairs. It may be necessary, it may not. So, and if we need to cut the budget more, then maybe that's an item we can cut down half of that. And again, if you need it, then you go back to the fund balance to tap that to pay for the overage.
And then town garage, I understand the 10,000, we're talking about the Morton building, but I guess the addition to it, right? That's going to be partitioned, insulated, and heated. What about the 24,000? Is there a particular project in that?
That's heat, lights, phone, the
Okay.
contractual, that's all the,
No, yeah, contractual expenditure.
that's your heat, your lights, the fuel oil.
Okay,
and
20,
phone bill.
I don't know what it is in 2015 year to date, but it's, I guess the 24 is
What
based
was
on that.
that, I'm sorry, what number?
85,132. It just seems high compared to the 2014 actual, and even a little high compared to the 2013 actual. And heating oil prices are going down.
Right. Yeah, that may be, well, we cut back, I'm sorry, that's on the town garage you're talking?
Yes,
Okay, yeah, we budgeted 24,000 last year. And this year, we're 40, let's see, we're 24,000 again. The expenditures in July,
well, actually, you don't even need to answer me,
Yeah.
just ask you to consider.
Right,
Maybe
okay.
that's
yeah,
too high. Because I'm getting hungry too, like a lot of you probably are. And then on highway, machinery, we talked about the grader, and it wasn't clear to me in that discussion, I guess that comes out of the 85,000? How much,
Actually, that money's in there this year for that though.
well, that was a question I had, I thought we might do that repair in 2015.
Right, that money's in there for 2015.
that's what we're looking for to do.
So that has nothing to do with 2016 for that budget.
We have a truck to pay for.
Well, that's equipment and capital outlay.
The one
Comes
being-
out of 50.
$100,000, and we're
Next
looking
year.
to see how much of the CHIPS money we can use to help pay for that.
To offset that.
Yeah.
Next year, this year we can only do, don't you have to provide copies of checks now that we've paid, so we won't be able to do the repair, we're only the purchase of the truck, right? This year? Because that's all we paid for.
Yeah. But for next year, if we're counting on CHIPS money next year.
Well, why won't you have the cost of the repair for the truck in by the end of this year? Truck's gonna be in service before the end of the year, correct? I mean,
Not necessarily.
It didn't sound like it, that's why
No.
I said that. He
Didn't
sounded
sound
like it would.
The body is 90 days once it's ordered.
Well, I
And
thought we got the okay in June to do it. The job.
Yeah, you know, we got the truck up there fair time, and, we parked it right next door to town court rights that was in the same condition as ours.
But what I'm saying is, you got the okay to do the job in June. So that would give you plenty of flop time, even if you got it there in July. So
Give
90
them time
days
to
from
do the
July
ordering, yeah.
should be well done before the first of the year.
Well, it's gotta be paid for before the chips
You
and
put that in your
forks have to be
contract, you get a completion date, delivery date.
I thought we did that. I thought we had, made that,
No,
when we approved it, that would be done this year.
I told you people that I didn't look for it before the first of the year.
Looked for it in January.
Yeah.
That's what he said, yeah. But our CHIPS funds have to be in, you have to apply them before
Yes.
the end of December, anyways, you
Yeah.
can't wait.
And it won't matter, because you're gonna exhaust them anyhow. You're gonna use them in another area. In other words, it's not money that's gonna be lost and go back.
Right.
No, and this can carry over, CHIPS
Right.
money.
So that's what I'm saying, so it's not, the only thing that my concern is it leaves you without the truck with the most modern equipment not in use for you right away. That's the basis of my concern.
So back to my question, 50,000 then goes to payment for the truck, is that what that is? This is a machinery, equipment, and out capital outlay.
It's for any kind of a purchase, be it a truck, body work,
You'll pick up,
a backhoe. You know, and if we
You
have,
must, we're only talking about next year, so you must have something in mind of what you want, right?
well, right now on the plate now is getting that Freightliner in service.
That's the grader.
no,
Oh, that's
Oh, the
for
Freightliner's
repair.
right, right.
so that would pay for a portion of it, and if it's necessary to do it next year.
Well, you have $80,000 in contractual expenses for snow plowing too.
Yeah. But that's including sand,
Pardon?
sand.
Sand doesn't cost $80,000.
No, but I'm saying that includes.
So you have money there
Yeah.
also.
Right.
Sand, salt,
And
fuel.
our
Well,
fuel.
I'm saying, but you still have money there too for that.
I guess I would just ask you to take a look at that 135,000 for machinery total. And, you know, I understand if you have something specific in mind, okay, but just to set the money aside in case you decide to get a truck next year.
Yeah. Well, one of the things, we're having trouble with pickup trucks, and we may end up having to buy another pickup truck. And I've checked on state contract pickup trucks. They don't come equipped with what you want, and there's things that they don't include. So I haven't looked this year, but I did previous years. It might
Where
be a
is the
little less.
grader repair money gonna come from?
The greater repair money, that would, Phil, where is that, you're going to take?
That would be out of the 5130.4 account.
The 85,000.
Well, no, because it's gonna be done in 2015.
If it's done this year, we'll
That's
probably
this year
have to
though, so
use
it's not
our,
gonna be out of that.
That's what I'm saying.
we're probably gonna have to use the equipment money because we won't have enough in repairs left.
Where you're going with this, I believe, is if we're gonna spend $32,000 this year, and it's budget that we shouldn't carry that 32,000 over
Right.
next year, because that's called budget creep.
That's part of it.
Okay.
And then the other part of it is, I don't know that we want to be setting aside $50,000 for the pickup if we don't anticipate, if we're not planning to buy it.
Right.
Well,
Well,
we can't just put the money aside in case the truck blows up.
for instance, Bill had one pickup truck, had to replace the electrical harness in it. And then after that was, what was the oil pan?
The oil pan, I changed the oil into it, and 2.5 weeks, a week and a half later, it was dumping oil, 3 quarts of oil in 2 days.
Well, right, and you build a contingency in here, it's not called a contingency, but you build it in here, because based on historical experience, you can anticipate it's gonna cost us.
It's called a business plan.
Yeah,
Yeah,
Sounds
but in terms of new equipment, I think that ought to be part of the plan.
Right.
If it's not, then the money should come out.
one, yeah.
And then last comment, and this is a question, not a comment. When I look at the total to come from taxes on the very first page, it's $780,546. But when I did a quick add of the real property taxes in the revenue sections, I only came up with $684,000. So did I add wrong, or am I missing something?
I have a calculator if you want.
That's all right. I'm sure I added the numbers right. I'm not sure I got the right numbers here.
No.
Okay, I'm not sure.
So
This is
I'll leave
computer
you.
generated, right. Okay, so you found your question to the 780.
Yeah, because what I did was I took, for example, on the general, on page 1 of 7 for the revenues on general, I see real property tax 146,630, and then for highway, I see.
Oh, I'm sorry. Those figures are not current. In other words, I don't think I did that.
Well, I took the tentative budget line,
Yeah.
146,630. Is that not the right number?
Yeah, that should be right.
So I took the 146,630, and then on highway, I took the 411,420, and then on fire, I took the 125, whatever. When I added that, and 1,000 for lighting, and when I added those up, I only got 684.
Okay,
Because of
we can check that.
Okay, thank you.
No problem.
That's all.
Okay. Any further comments?
Yes.
Yes.
I have a question. We seem to have skipped over the fire district. Everybody needs a bad guy, so I'll do this.
He's jumping in.
Nothing against you, buddy, the fire department, Joe.
You have the numbers that go from 84, 350 to 125, et cetera, and it remains the same for this year, am I correct?
That's
Yes,
right.
So where will that money come
from you.
from? I don't have that much. So you're gonna have to-
Maybe we ask that question.
Your share, it goes into the general tax assessment for the town.
Will a portion of that come from that reserve fund?
No,
Well,
Well, it can because the reserve fund balances the budget.
right.
that, okay. Specifically, no, for those, for that category, but the total budget at the bottom,
Yes.
yes.
So effectively, yes, I mean, money is.
Let me explain to you where I was confused.
So let me rephrase it, because
Okay.
I'm still waiting to get an answer. Last year, if I'm not incorrect, monies were moved from the fund into the general
Yes,
fund,
yes,
and from there, the fire contract was paid.
Correct.
Yes.
Historically, whenever there was an increase in the fire contract, it was treated as a line item on a tax bill and didn't involve the general fund or any reserves.
right.
Now, I said this year, I'll say it again for next year, I'm directly opposed to using any of that fund balance to cover the fire costs. There should be a direct cost to the residents of the town. It should be shared equally by everybody and not with any sort of special deductions or exceptions, exemptions, whatever you want to call them, the way that the general fund is. Fire cost is the cost to this town to maintain the fire and EMS, and there should be a separate line item for this total, divided by however many thousands of dollars you have in your assessment, and that should be the end of that.
Okay. It,
I can go further to say what I think about the general fund balance, that you have that reserve fund, is it at what you think is a adequate level?
how much are we going to owe in back taxes to the campground?
I have no idea, but how much have you been counting on giving back?
I don't know. We don't know what the court
See,
is going
that
to
number is
decide.
the number that should
That's
go
right.
into that reserve.
But we,
That would be your worst case scenario. You should have that number in your
Yeah, yeah.
head. Correct?
I don't have it from Martin.
That would be your best case scenario. Tom, and on that, Bob and I went round and round with this, and then I talked to Martin when we were trying to figure out about this loan and all this stuff. what we thought, myself and some other people, because the fire contract was a separate line item, in the beginning, we were told that it wasn't subjected to the 2% increase, which it's not. However, it has to go into his general budget, which makes it part of the tax cap. And we went round and round for probably 2 or 3 months before we actually got, and I think Martin actually dug into that to show us how it was orchestrated. So the state wants the fire contract on a separate item on your budget. However, the fire contract goes into the town's general budget, and then that's when it becomes part of the tax cap. So it does become part of the general budget, and then when he takes money out of the general fund to balance the general budget, that's how they do it. I'm not saying I agree or disagree with it. That's what we got stuck with when we researched it. And that was 2 years ago, I believe.
The 2% tax cap is 0.73%.
No, but I'm saying at the time, when
I know, but
2%
that was
first came out,
0.7%.
that's what I couldn't figure it out, and we asked Martin, and it took Martin quite a bit of time. I think it was at least a 2 or 3 month period before he could actually come in and explain the way that the state wants that.
But Tom, I understand your question.
Yeah, I know.
How do we get the $125,000, whatever it is, to be paid by everybody in the county, not just by the people including the people who have tax exemptions, right? That's what you're saying.
You're not saying, you want a flat tax on
What I'm
everybody,
saying
an
is-
equal amount for every
I'll make it
household.
very simple. The fire and EMS portion of our taxes is this line item. There are no exemptions to that, not for being a farmer, a veteran, whatever else you might have. The general tax considers all those exemptions, which makes it sort of unfair
Right, I understand what you're saying.
to those people who are getting the benefit from the fire department but not paying their share.
That's true with every government service.
Actually, Tom, where our biggest problem lies with that is, on a Thursday night, we have a fire district and a protection population of about 12,000 people. On a Friday night and Saturday night, we go up anywhere from 8 to 12,000 people. And the state, with the grant programs and stuff like that, will not take that into consideration for what we have to protect. That even compounds what you're saying. In other words, those people that come in don't contribute to it in any way, technically, through your local tax dollars, but we still have to provide those services.
Are those the people who are camping or?
Camping, right,
They
yeah.
don't own a piece of property?
That's
somewhere?
correct. Yep, your campgrounds, all your visitors and things like that, yep. In our town, we send out 700 and some tax bills, correct, Charlene?
There's
750 some parcels,
like
I believe.
1,000, there's over 1,000 parcels.
Right, but 750 some taxpayers
Well,
are
then,
actually.
Ed, that's all the more reason why the town should have a larger share of that bed tax.
You're right.
Reason to cover that.
Do the
Hoping it wouldn't come up
campgrounds,
to that.
do the campgrounds collect bed tax?
If you rent their trailers, they should. He sent me
gotta
the
be there.
whole law.
No, okay,
I think
but,
I remember it.
Yeah,
From
somebody
2
comes
days
in
ago.
and puts up a tent, they're covered by our fire company and they
If you
purchase a
provide your
spot.
own tent or trailer, then they don't tax you.
Right,
But if you're renting a cabin, or if you're renting a spot with their trailer on it, you have to pay.
Yeah.
That's considered to be
and
an
that's,
overnight lodging.
and that, once we get the organization set up, Dan is supposed to let me know where those taxable places are, and I'm supposed to make sure that they're paying their bed tax as a supervisor of the town. So, and we get a share of the bed tax money.
Actually, that's now in place.
Yeah, but I've received no
I know.
listing,
We need to roll it out.
yeah.
I'd like to go back to another subject, and I'm not gonna upset anyone at all.
Come
I have a
on.
question for the supervisor of roads.
Superintendent.
You mentioned heating that portion of the building to 35 degrees. Where did you get that figure? Was it recommended to you by someone?
No, the only thing I wanted to do was keep the loader and the truck above freezing, you know.
And that would be so that they start reliably, or?
Yes.
Because you're not sure of the antifreeze solution?
No, and then start reliably. And then one of the things, Tom, that our loader is a 2005 loader. and we only replaced the batteries in that machine here 2 years ago. You know, because the machine is in a housed structure, heated structure. When starting it, you're not taxing the starting system, batteries, etc. You know,
Okay, and you also had plans to insulate that.
that's correct.
You can do away with the insulation. If you're heating a place under 50 degrees, code doesn't look at it as a heated area, you don't need any insulation. If all your interest is keeping those machines warm, use the block heaters.
Well, the truck itself, it's to keep the sander thawed.
It's loaded with sand.
Not necessarily loaded with sand, but, you know, if there's any kind of sand in the thing,
It's gonna freeze.
it's
right.
gonna freeze. And you know, you gotta have them,
Can't you clean it before you park it for the winter?
Pretty much, in all honesty, you probably have to pressure wash it every time you get in your building before it froze, because the grit stays in there, and that belt, the one belt runs, it's not a belt, it's a steel plate with a lip that runs right on top of another set of steel
Okay,
plates.
but if the thing is not in service.
They
what
freeze
would be
going
the-
down the road.
yeah, but Tom, if we have a truck breakdown, a hydraulic hose or
Okay, so this
or
is
a clutch
this
fan,
is keep in reserve
yes,
for another piece of equipment that you
in
use.
case of emergency, the
Well,
truck.
I've been using electric resistant heaters hanging right over the truck where the part that you want to keep warm.
Actually,
Don't
infrared,
bother heating the building, because you're
Infrared
gonna
would be
put
better.
$10,000-15,000 into a furnace and ductwork in a cold building that's gonna corrode in 2 or 3 years. And that equipment's not gonna be serviceable inside of 5. You're gonna insulate the place, and you're never gonna get your money back, because you're not gonna lose that much heat from a building you're keeping at 35.
correct. It's the
For-
temperature difference is significant.
40 days a year, you're gonna be maybe below freezing in that building.
How about infrared? That goes right to the metal. Remember, the infrared ceiling
Something
units?
over headlights.
Yeah. That's something, then you only heat the object, you don't heat the room.
Well, that's what I said.
Yeah, that's what I'm saying.
I said electric resistant
That might be
heat.
something to look like that.
Okay,
Look at
that's
that.
something to look at.
Before you make a decision on buying something, I think
Right.
if
Well-
Tom can help you out or somebody can help you out.
Well, I didn't realize that such an option was available.
Now you know.
And
In
now
fact,
you know.
if you talk to me tomorrow, you'll know even more.
I will give you one,
I did this stuff for 50
I
years, so I
think-
know what I'm
I
I'll
talking
agree.
give you a word of advice, watch how cold you let that place get. I've got a garage that used to be heated to 70 and I cut it back to 35. Last winter it froze enough, it heat the foundations and I can't shut the entry doors anymore.
Well, we've got a better construction than that, I hope.
And that one's been there since
If your footing was deep
1935.
enough,
agree with
You
you.
wouldn't have had that problem.
I agree with you 100%.
Okay, that's something for you to look at, Tom, get hold of Tom and talk about it. That sounds like a good idea. Save us bucks. Okay, so that might
And
be,
that's simple.
that may be.
Well, the first cost is much cheaper. The operating cost might be a little bit more, but it will never approach what it would have cost you, just the interest on that money you would have spent with that furnace.
Additionally, the
And
electric.
you've got REA. You're
The
paying half of what
electric is
the other
REA,
people are
that's
paying.
No, it
exactly
ain't,
right.
ain't half.
It ain't half anymore.
No.
Every month, it's average, it averages out about 11 cents a kilowatt hour throughout the year if you do a 12-month average. I do it every
Once
month.
we get the solar panels, it'll be even.
Really, as I say, put solar on the roof and who costs nothing.
Okay, is there anything else?
Yeah, I got a question. Lenny, when the ambulance goes out, do you charge for
No.
ambulance call?
No, sir.
Why not? Everybody else does.
No, not everybody else does. Actually, very few do. You have to be very careful with that. A lot of towns got themselves in trouble. When you go out, you have to aggressively collect the money if you charge. So you have to have a bill collection system. And if you don't have one, you have to hire a collection agency. So what you're gonna do is you're gonna stop most of the senior citizens and people who have self-respect from calling the ambulance because they don't feel as though they're gonna be able to afford it. So that's why we don't charge. I can't say the towns, but there's a couple towns around here that actually wound up in court because what they did was, and they made this statement at a meeting, they said, we'll bill them, and whoever pays, pays, who doesn't pay. And another person made the comment, well, let's just call the insurance companies and get the money from them.
Yeah.
And they had to wind up paying back every cent they collected for 2 years. So if you're gonna bill, you have to be aggressive about the collection. And it was decided a long time ago that that would really deter people using the ambulance, and that's gonna cause
But
people.
maybe, I don't know if more people in New Lisbon have insurance than Lisbon before Obamacare, but now, at least nationwide, there's 15 million more people with insurance. If more of our residents have insurance, collection shouldn't be the issue that it was before.
But you still gotta go after the people.
I understand.
Right, so I'll be perfectly honest with you, my own opinion, I'm not gonna hire a collection agency to go after Bob Taylor for an ambulance call. That's my opinion, okay? I think that's something, New Lisbon, we took away garbage from the people. We've taken away just about anything the town provides. I think the town should at least continue to provide an ambulance service.
Well, what about when you,
And I'm gonna,
when you
believe it or
don't
not, by law,
have
we
a
don't-
crew there and CMT comes in here?
All right, the reason CMT comes in a lot of times is because there's different medical procedures that not everybody's trained to that level, or we can't afford. The state pushes a lot of stuff down our
I
throat
understand
that we
that.
don't want. But there are things, like right now, we're in the process, we have to buy a monitoring device that costs $6,000 that will measure carbon monoxide in your system, because the current monitor that we have doesn't do that. To upgrade that monitor to that will be $40,000, okay? But these are the things that the state all of a sudden says they want, and that's what you have to do. CMT, and it's an opinion, it's not based on our members, this is Lenny Willow's opinion. CMT is a great asset to Otsego County, because CMT, because they're a profit-making venture, they can have the latest technology, they have paid people 24/7, and they have a very, very young, currently educated medical staff. So they can jump in fully equipped, okay, with the stuff
Well,
where
I understand.
sometimes we're marginal, and also, we're marginal on assistance too. I mean, we've got some very large people that have to come down a flight of stairs, and at 3 o'clock in the morning, it's hard to get people out of bed to do that. So, yeah, CMT does come in and do some mutual aid, very little. Most of the time, we'll have CMT roll to meet us to do an intercept, just as a precautionary measure. We might get the patient loaded and going, and then we can discontinue them. CMT doesn't charge for that. CMT only charges when they actually do patient care. So, as far as us, no, we haven't.
That's not true either.
Pardon me?
That's not true either, a patient care thing.
It is true.
No,
CMT can't charge you.
They gave me a ride from Oneonta to Cooperstown, they did absolutely nothing.
That's
to me.
patient care, they transport you.
They
That's
transport me, that's
they're
not
res-
patient care.
Yes, it is, they're they monitor.
Well, every time they come pick you up then, that's patient care then.
Yes,
Yeah.
because
They
they
charge-
monitor your vitals, and they're actually monitoring your vitals to make sure nothing's not changing to where they gotta provide some kind of medical assistance, so that is patient care.
Well, so every time they pick somebody
Any
up, they.
transport.
Every time they pick them up, it's patient care, that's
What
all.
Lenny was saying
What I'm
is-
saying is, you didn't get what I was saying, John. What I'm saying is when they're en route from Cooperstown, and if they pull right in on our scene many times, they'll even come in the house with us, we'll have discussion. If they don't do anything, there's no charge. So just because you see a CMT rig there, that doesn't mean there's gonna be a cost to the
Well,
person.
you know, if you didn't call them or anything, or
No, even
or
if
the
you,
county didn't call.
even
for-
when we
for
call,
backup
we,
or whatever.
we do call them. We call them, we'll get on the radio, say we want a CMT link up or an intercept. Nobody is billed until they actually perform a service to that patient. And that service will be transportation. And any ambulance service anywhere does that. I mean, and you want to talk about paid agencies, and I can talk about what you're recording. Take some time to research what kind of trouble New Berlin's in right now, financially, with their paid service, okay? And also take a little time and do a little research and see where Pittsfield is with their EMS situation right now. So, I think right now, as
You
long
can
as
say it's Pittsfield even have one now.
Pittsfield, and again, that's misinformation that people get out of coffee shops and bars, instead of going to the Otsego County. It's misinformation. Call Kevin Ritton from Otsego County tomorrow.
Well, Pittsfield is using New Berlin now, right?
Pardon me? Pittsfield is contracted with New Berlin for sick person calls and transports. Pittsfield still responds to motor vehicle accidents and fires.
Okay.
Okay? Whether it's a good system, bad system or not, I don't know. But that's the way their system currently is. I'm not saying it's good or bad, I'm saying that's the way the system currently is. New Berlin, everybody read the newspaper, they got into battling ambulances, and that was actually two factions of people. It was the Hatfields and McCoys, basically. And now that's costing them a fortune. They're not making, they do not do enough transports to justify having to pay ambulance service in New Berlin right now. And you can check that out in New Berlin, you'll see that it's costing them a fortune. So that's why they were very happy to pick up Pittsfield as a customer to do these sick person calls.
Well, and they picked up Pittsfield because Pittsfield wanted to go to a pay-as-you-go system. And I don't know all the ins and outs, you probably do.
Well, the problem with that is, where's the ambulance going to be based? New Berlin ran into that trouble. New Berlin hired Superior before this other situation came on. And Superior said, we're going to have a roving ambulance. Most of the time that New Berlin needed an ambulance, the ambulance was roving in Norwich.
Norwich, yeah.
Okay, and that became a big problem. So then a few of the people got together and went back. Right now, as long as, and this is my opinion, as long as we can go, right now we're on pretty much a shoestring for people. We've got 6 people, active people. Anytime you want to sit down and see the amount of training that's required,
I
I'm more than
understand
willing
that
to show
part.
you. Right now we have applications for 3 new members, which that's the first in a long time. Unfortunately, when they get into that class, usually only 30% of people finish the class and sign up for it, once they find out what's involved. So we're hoping maybe we can pick up 1 more person, maybe 2, which would help us out a lot. But we're stretched pretty thin. We operate on a strictly bare bones budget. Our ambulance has a repairs and maintenance system beyond belief because we want that ambulance to last for years and years. This year it just went into the shop. All the ground straps were pulled off of the frame to the body in every area from the engine to the body, completely cleaned and regrounded because that's what causes rust throughout the whole system. And then the whole chassis was washed and undercoated again. That's how you add life to the vehicle. When that comes back in from the ambulance call, it's washed every time, it's hosed down every time, you know, things like that. So
Which adds to the burden of the people who are called out for an ambulance.
absolutely, absolutely. And I mean,
And to say nothing of the wait time at the hospital.
and that's an issue too. Bassett's so overwhelmed, their emergency department, we can go in there at 3 o'clock in the morning and they can literally have people scattered all over the hallways and things like that. We cannot leave until they accept the patient from us. And going back to the sick person call, if they're a frequent flyer, the hospital knows that, you know what I mean? I won't say they don't give them the best attention, but sometimes they don't always stand out in the crowd. That'd be the nicest way to put it. So you can be stuck there for a while doing that too, so.
I know a situation where a woman called the ambulance and she was waiting with her purse and her overcoat on to be transported to the hospital.
Yeah.
And it was not necessary.
We had to change our protocol. We got approval from what they call ARIMS. That's our regional medical authority that actually has to say on how we operate. Department of Health has one area, and then this ARIMS actually controls it locally, okay? And we changed our protocol probably about 10 years ago. We provide transportation for the sick and injured to the closest facility at hand or best servicing facility. Because the problem we were having, we were getting people asking us to take them to Utica because they didn't want to drive there during a snowstorm. And you get there and they had an appointment with the doctor, but they would drop them off at the ER and walk right through the ER and go to their doctor. So we had to stop that quite a few years
As
ago.
you were referring, a heavy person coming from upstairs, downstairs, you have to have extra help. I remember that instant where a woman was, a heavy person was there, and they had to call for an additional muscle.
We had a patient one time bend our stretcher, and it was under warranty, because it was a certain weight, which I won't mention weights or anything, it was a certain weight, it's warranty and stuff, so they sent me a warranty form, and they have a diagram of the stretcher, and I had to mark where each person was that were lifting the stretcher at the time that the stretcher failed. Well, sent it in to them, they denied the warranty, if you were on the squad there, Charlie. They denied the warranty because we should have had 8 people lifting, not
Lifting that
6.
weight.
So they didn't pay a claim, so we had to buy a stretcher for $2,000. So, just little
Okay,
things like that.
can we get back to the budget instead of tales about the gargantua?
Okay.
I just wanted to.
I wanted to, well, you have something you want to say, go ahead. Bob, did you? Oh, I did.
No.
My statement is that you have given no indication that you want to reduce anything. And so therefore, as it stands right now, we're looking at a $1 per thousand increase in the tax rate. Now, and I told you the
You're
way.
killing Charlie, you better calm that down.
I don't like that money.
Before you go too far down that
I
path,
don't
I do
think
have
I'll
something to
agree.
say.
Well, one
About
thing,
that.
okay, one thing is we can increase the amount that we're taking from fund balance. And because we don't know what the fund balance is going to be at the end of this year, what contribution we'll make, how much we're saving. And it depends upon now and the end of the year, what's the snowfall going to be, what are those things going to be? So give me some direction. Do you want to take more from the fund balance than the 50,000 in general and the 76,000 in highway? Do you want to see where can we cut?
I want to cut an employee. I've said that for months.
Okay?
I want some figures. I've asked for figures. I asked you the last time that you were here, Bill, to have these figures ready. You know,
So what-
Mr. Malilo brought up the overtime issue. You can't tell us how many hours overtime you had last year. Well,